It's the musical equivalent of Evel Knievel jumping the fountains at Caesar's Palace. It really shouldn't be attempted or done. To look inside the label of a Martin guitar and see Joe Bonamassa in there, it's a pinch me moment. And I'm like, Brian, you mean to tell me you're playing all of that with strings that feel like are the same gauge as the power lines that are running to the building?
You just said the best sounding Martin that you've ever played.
Yeah.
Can you detail that one just a little bit for me? Aha. Hey, listen to that beautiful acoustic music. And welcome to Martin Stories. This is the official podcast of Martin Guitar. I'm your host, Jimmy Leslie. Here we believe that the acoustic guitar, and specifically that rich Martin tone, is the most organic sound on the planet and just the best for storytelling. And today we're going to get into a very special story of player extraordinaire Joe Bonamassa. Joe Bonamassa he needs no introduction really to players, but he's really best known as a modern day electric blues titan, but he also is an acoustic aficionado. Joe is a premier collector. He's got an amazing arsenal of instruments, and he's got many vintage Martins, mind blowers, really, some of them have been the inspiration for his recent signature models, most recently a pair of 00. They just reached dealers recently, so we'll get into all of that, the new signature models, the vintage guitars behind them, and just the whole lesser-known acoustic side of Joe Bonamassa. So it's going to be a very special Martin story. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast, and especially to our esteemed guest artist, Mr. Bonamassa. All right. Well, hey, Joe, good to see you. Thanks for joining us here on Martin Stories.
Good to see you again. It's been a long time since Moe's Alley.
Yes. Santa Cruz, yeah. But you were a real gentleman back then to the opening act, and it's deeply appreciated.
Well, tell the audience what's the first question that I asked you when you reminded me that you had opened for me at Moe's Alley over 20.
Yes.
What was the first question I asked you?
You said, was I nice?
Was I nice? And I say that to everyone because sometimes I actually mean that. I was like, back then I was a different guy, I mean, I'd say the most balanced guy in rock and roll at the point, like a chips on both shoulders. But it's good to see you again. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you as well. First of all, that's interesting to hear you say that. You, at the time, were in a very good mood. Remember, you gave me a bunch of CDs and your number, and I even left a couple chords, and you sent them back to me. But then the next time I think I saw you play, we did a Guitar Player Presents event for you at the San Jose Civic,
Okay,
so
yeah.
There was a big jump in that little span of time between where you were at. And I guess whatever it did, it made you... I don't know, mellow out, nicer, more appreciative. Is that what you're trying to say?
49 years old, and I've come to the realization in my life that, the things that you thought were important 20 years ago are not important at all. It's not even a little bit important.
Mm-hmm.
Are you happy? Are you healthy? Do you have good friends? Do you have good relationships? Are you doing what you like to do? Is it, and I've just gotten to the stage of life where I found that nothing that I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do, and nothing that, is a drag. And so that's, it's a good place to be. And it takes a little living to come to that. Like when you're coming up and it's you against the world, and there's really, there's nobody. Not many people are helping you at the time. You do kind of get those chips on your shoulder going on. I'm like, what do I have to do to get noticed? And you would show up, and you would just not. Sometimes you were just. I was very blunt back then, and not that I wasn't nice. I was just blunt. So I apologize to anyone who was on the receiving end of that.
It's good to see that you've gotten to the place that you've gotten, that you're doing what you want to do. Thank you for doing this. And you are apparently, well, you're also in New York, right? I mean, in terms of your directness. All right, you've got a Nerdville Gotham, New York City right there. So I take it you're right there in the heart of New York City.
I used to walk past this building when I was a kid, and
Hmm.
I was singing jingles for Joel Simon, and just doing
Really?
anything I could to make some money. So walk past this very building in Central Park West, and go, that's where the bigwigs live. And
Yeah.
now I live here, and
Nice.
a little manifest destiny. There are three Nerdville locations. We're broadcasting from our Gotham location. There's one in Nashville and there's one in Los Angeles, and they all
Right
have
on.
signs. We all have, because I'm crazy like that, and like neon signs, and have a great sign maker that is willing to take my money and send me a sign.
Tell me though, is Nerdville then Gotham there full of guitars? I see one in the background.
It's the most residential of the three.
Mhm.
The other one's borderline on museums. I mean, there's enough here to get in trouble, but also it is apartment living versus home living, where you have to be conscientious of your neighbors. And I've been in this location almost 7 years, and I've not had any noise complaints. And because I really don't play a lot when I'm home, and as the years go on, I play less and less. What I try to do is, I try to get out more, live life more, and not just be kind of tethered to the instrument like I've been for the last 44 years. And so when I do play at home, I usually play acoustic guitar, and I have a couple little amps, and there's about 15 guitars here, but not a obnoxious amount like in other places. But yeah, it's this is the most residential um, place that I abode in.
Of course, the acoustic that'll keep you out of neighbor trouble, and also quite rewarding. You are still primarily known as an electric player. I mean,
Yes.
but I imagine that the acoustic's probably been right there at your side since Jump Street. Can we get the acoustic origin story? I imagine this goes back to the shop and all of that. Like, what was your first guitar, and has the
Well,
acoustic been there with you the whole time?
the original the reason why I got a guitar when I was 4 years old for Christmas
Yeah.
was because there are pictures of me when I was three, and in the on stages of 4 years old, like hacking at my father's Martin D-35. He had like a mid 70s Martin D-35 that he would use for gigs, and I
Hmm.
would just kind of claw at it, and so he's like, I probably should get him his own guitar, and I expressed some interest. And my first, my first electric guitar was a short scale Erlewine Chiquita guitar, which if you grew up in the 80s, and it was endorsed by a lot of rock stars. They would travel and they would play on they would play on the bus, and it was this little truncated electric. And but my father always had acoustics, and
Hmm.
my father always had, he was really into acoustic music, and he had a Martin, and he had a Ovation. And I would kind of, I don't remember specifically my first acoustic guitar that I bought myself. I don't remember that. But I remember always having stuff around. Growing up in a guitar shop, my dad would have inventory, so I would get to mess with a lot of things, and was always enamored with the acoustic sound that Stephen Stills got, on those records, and Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. I was just enamored with that tone, and it
That's
was
a high
always the
water mark.
thing. Yeah, I mean, and it's always. My dad goes, "That's a Martin. That's a fancy Martin. It's a D-45 or
Right.
D-28." And I was like, "Wow." And
D-45. And was he a Martin dealer? Were there all these
my
Martins in
dad
the
was not a Martin dealer. He was predominantly a used and vintage guitar dealer. So he would have Martins. He always tried to make sure he had something for everyone. There's like,
Yeah.
here's a couple of Martins on the wall, a couple of this, couple of that. And because I mean, acoustic guitars, even I would even say more than electrics. My acoustic guitar buddies are even, if they call me a cork sniffer. I mean, like the acoustic community is like, it's like, it's even, they take it to a fine art, uh, because because it is an instrument that isn't predicated on what amp. Like with an electric guitar, you have so many ways to create a tone, regardless if the guitar is a dead piece of wood. Like there's some electrics that are just dead, but you can salvage that with a good amp and few tricks. With an acoustic guitar, it's kind of either great or it's not, and there's not a lot you can do to, short of rebuilding the whole thing, to kind of, you know fix that problem.
Right.
So, the people I've been around on the acoustic side are very, very particular. They'll like, they'll like tap the back,
Right.
they do this kind of stuff, and you're like,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I don't know, where do I plug this in, So it's it's stuff like that, I've learned over the years.
And so that Martin sound, though, that he said, Stephen Stills, that's a Martin sound.
Yeah.
And, first of all, now that you've been through a bunch of them, can you describe just in your words, how does the Martin sound different? How can you identify it? Can you pick it out on the radio? You know what I mean?
For me, it's Tony Rice, Dan Tyminski, and Stephen Stills, and in the bluegrass world, and the Martin is very identifiable. And I've done a couple of acoustic adventures, in live shows. We did Carnegie Hall in 2016, and we did Vienna Opera House in 2012. And with that, what I learned most importantly was the because we did it all like traditional style with just microphones,
I
no elect,
noticed that. Yeah, I noticed that.
and we did both times we did that. And what I noticed was the smaller body mahogany guitars, Martins in particular, sounded almost twice as loud to
Ah,
the microphone as the Rosewoods. And I would, 'cause I had D-41s on stage, and I would have, D-18s, and, little body ones, and stuff like that. And I noticed like the loudest guitar of the night was this like mid-30s 017 NY. And I'm like, why is that? And you're like, oh, mahogany. Mahogany is a little louder
mm,
perceptively to the microphone. Maybe not
mm,
in the room. It's got a little
mhm.
less bass, a little more mid-range. So your microphone is picking it up. And then I started noticing a lot of D-18s on stages with bluegrass. But also, you also see a lot of D-28s, and it's just because, it depends if your bluegrass ensemble is really around one microphone, and they trade, so they're trying to project. And the
Right.
sound of a Martin is really so indelibly linked to bluegrass, that it's like, it's hard not to notice that.
It's interesting when you mentioned the mahogany and the on the mic. It is very different equation when you're dealing with the microphone, and especially you're dealing with it live. That's
Mhm.
another thing. And of course, the smaller body ones can be deceptive because they're cutting through that thing. I mean, the sound engineer oftentimes is going to cut the low end off the boominess off your mic or in the studio or whatever anyway. And it seems it can be deceptive, right? How much the smaller guitar can actually, every ounce of it is picked up into that microphone.
The same goes for electric. If you have too much top, too much bottom, you're competing with cymbals and kick drum.
Yes.
And it's all, the electric guitar is a mid-range instrument. And it's the same thing with acoustic guitars. It's like, yeah, do you want like everybody says, this one's a cannon, and there's some that you just sit down and just like, it just like, I have a 0042 from like 1939, um, 38 or 39. That is the greatest sounding acoustic guitar I've ever heard in my entire life. The thing just, it rattles and hums by itself, and you hit a low E, and it just projects, and it's twice as loud as the D stuff that I own. And I'm like, going, what is it about this? But perceptually, it has a lot of bottom, a lot of top. So when you go into the studio, you're like, why don't I hear it in the track as much? And then you grab like a D-18 or, 0018 or, triple O something. And then, oh, I hear it in the track more. It's
Yes.
because you're sonically fitting into where it should be,
Yes.
without having to cut frequency on a microphone and add. It's always better to just run things flat. If it sounds great flat, then you can add a little bit. You don't want to radically mess with EQ, because it starts sounding a little unnatural, especially if you're in a more organic setting. But those are the things that I've learned over the years. It's like you don't need all the top, you don't need all the bottom, and sometimes something that in the room sounds slightly anemic or borderline unpleasant may be the best recording instrument that you have around.
Right. Well, there you go. And I'm really curious to know a little bit. You just said the best sounding Martin that you've ever played.
Yeah,
Can you detail that one just a little bit for me, please?
it's a double O 42 Martin from 1939. And it's
Okay.
again, we can talk about pre-war stuff, and there's always that debate pre-war. Well, what whose war is it? Pre-European war or pre our involvement?
When the
The,
United States entered, right, 39, 41, right.
Generally, the Martins between 1935 and 1940, 41 are regarded as the end all,
Hmm.
the golden era. And there's this. I happened to buy it from Norm's Rare Guitars. I was looking to kind of advance my fancy Martin collection, and I was actually looking for an 045 like Joan Baez used to play, because I saw one in the Martin Museum. I'm like, oh man,
I know exactly which one you're referring
I
to.
gotta
Yes.
find one of those. Those are apparently super scarce. But Norman had a really killer 0042 that I purchased from him a couple years ago, and I got it home, and even it still has the same strings on it that he sold it to me. And it just every time I play it, just like I'm just so impressed by it that all that sound can come out of this little box.
Yes.
And one of the coolest things I've done is when we did all those videos for the 00045 that you guys were nice enough to reissue for me a few years ago, was got to see the original factory in Nazareth, and go, I can't believe all of this stuff was made in a building this size.
And that little, I know,
And
I've been there.
that
Yeah.
second floor, and you're going, and then you see the little writing on the wall, and people go like, I built triple O this, and you're going, everything from a tipple to a D-45 came out of this room, and it's amazing. Artisans, craftsmen, impeccable design and stuff. I mean, again, we're talking about guitars that are 80 years old, if not, we're talking 80-year-old stuff that is still relevant and still as cool as the day it was made. There's not many industries that you can say that applies to, and guitars are really one of them.
Very few. Yeah. And that's so you've done a couple of signature models. And so therefore you've been back and forth and working closely with Martin on these. And let's talk about them both. Maybe I'll go in reverse order. I want to get to the 00 because that's where we're gonna go. But the 00045, that was a 1941, which you called
41.
a museum grade quality instrument.
It was so clean. I was scared. Very few things I'm scared to play. That was one of them.
Yeah.
And it was a guitar that walked into a guitar center in Costa Mesa, and this woman was the only thing that she had left of value, and she didn't know what it was worth. And but the money we got her for that guitar saved her house, and it was a life-changing event. But she inherited the guitar from her husband, who inherited from his grandfather, and he bought it new in I think it was Alhambra area of Los Angeles. So when my assistant Rick brought the 0045 back to Nazareth, Pennsylvania, that was the first time that guitar had left the city of Los Angeles, or the Los Angeles greater area, in almost 80 years. And we very much brought it at a time where if you tell them in New York City, it's sirens. And we brought it at a time of the year where the climate in LA and the climate in Pennsylvania were relatively the same. You can't shock them when they're that old, you know. And so it got back to L.A. unscathed, and we're it's just the cleanest example of a 00045 that I've ever seen. It had the price tag on it, still had the price tag on it,
Oh no way.
and it was $225 in 1941, which is extremely significant investment in music, and to not be played, to pay all that money for a guitar, it to not be played.
Right. That's
It's like
really rare. I mean,
very, very
almost
rare.
ridiculous to come across that. So you must have been freaked out, to even touch
Well,
it or scratch it
well, I wouldn't let anybody play it.
yeah.
I would just, I wouldn't use a pick on it. I just would play it, and it's just one of those things where you just go, it's just so preserved, that you didn't want to be the first person to put a nick in it, and it is historically significant, and really, not many survived in that condition.
Most people are never going to get the chance to even come close to something like that. Can you tell, like, there's aficionados are going to check this out. Can you really tell us what that feels like, sounds like when you're alone late at night with that? And can you really take us inside that
Well, they're
experience?
inspiring, I mean, there's something about the pre-war stuff that it was a combination of materials and advancements in bracing and scale that created this perfect storm. That, like, I've always noticed all the pre-war stuff that I've played, it's very light. It's
Hmm.
almost like light. And I did notice the same thing. When it comes to acoustic instruments, the one and only time I was able to hold a Stradivarius violin.
Uh,
I held the Lipinski Strad in Milwaukee, and you can look it up. It's got a very famous story, some happy, some sad, but it's in the right home, and being played by the right person. When I held it, because he asked me to want to hold it, and I was like, I do this all the time with people, expensive guitars. I'm like, you want to hold it? They're like, no. And I'm like, come on, you're not going to drop it. And he goes, you want to hold it? I'm like, no. And he goes, you're not going to drop it. So when I held the Stradivarius, I mean, you don't expect a violin to weigh 10 pounds, but it was lighter than you thought it was going to be. And it was featherweight. It was like, it wasn't even there.
yeah.
And I'd be surprised if the thing was a pound. And the thing about the pre-war Martin stuff that I noticed the same thing kind of consistently, either through stuff I've played that are my friends and stuff that I own. It's light. It's just light. And it's not like they use thinner wood. It's just light.
So yeah,
And
what do you think what do you attribute this to? And it's obviously not that they're not durable. I mean, we're talking about it all these years
no,
later.
I mean, acoustic guitars are subject to weather and humidity changes and cracks and things like that. Some of them are just, they don't crack, and some of them do. And that's between you and the tree. You get a lucky tree, and what I do think is, again, it was at the time something to do with the innovations in the bracing, the X bracing, and the supply of wood, that they were access to, the Brazilian rosewood, the spruce, and kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah. Right on. And so when you had that cloned, go ahead and take me through that process then, as that gets there and then you get the clone for that. A-B me.
Well, the thing what it really boiled down to is there was no aging required, and it hadn't patinaed. There was no checking. The only thing that we what Martin did was really painstakingly nail the neck shape, and,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. And we did. It was actually my idea. I said, let's do 45 45s,
Right.
and we did 45 45 models. And I have the only one in Brazilian rosewood, and that's my personal guitar, and I love that thing. and I actually play that. I've played that way more than the original, like exponentially more
Mm.
than the original one, because I just like it. It's on the stand in my house, and I just like it. And
Have you recorded with either of those guitars?
I've never recorded with the original. I've recorded with the replica, and it records great. Again,
Is there
I like
is there
smaller
a,
body stuff. I mean, I've always been prepped for, I like triple O, double O. Those are, even single O stuff. That's Martin behind me is a single O 18, and put a mic in front of that in the studio. I'll put up against anything. It just sounds bigger than they are.
right? Are there some? Can you cite me some examples? Can we, if we wanted to hear your 45, like you've recorded with it? Is there a track you want to shout out?
There's probably some stuff on the Mark Broussard record that I
Mm.
produced with Josh Smith. There's none of the solo. I mean, like it's like I haven't done a solo guitar bit in a while. But in the studio I use them all the time. And there was probably a little bit on the BB King record, which you're like, why do you use acoustic on BB King record? Well, sometimes you need it. And but generally I always have an acoustic guitar in the studio, and there's always, when in terms of electric music, I call it in tune percussion. Sometimes you want in tune percussion, so meaning you want this, you're striking the string, so you're getting this kind of percussive sound, but it's in tune. It's not a shaker, but it's
Yeah,
in tune.
you could
And
tap on the back. Yeah.
you tap on. Well, yeah, you put bongos on anything, but
um,
ultimately, it's just what you need it for when it comes to your musical taste.
Back to then the other ones. You just mentioned the smaller bodies, right? So we talked about the triple O. The one you said was the nicest ever was a double O, but that is not the one that is the basis for the new signature model. That's a different double O, correct, Joe?
Well, I have the double O 42, and that's a 39. And I think we made a conscious decision and the right decision not to go fancy
Oh, I
twice.
see what you mean.
You know what I mean? It's
Appointments and everything. Yeah.
yeah, expensive. So we wanted to keep it want to keep it affordable. So there's two models. There's it's the 0010 retro, that's an affordable model, and then there's the American made 0018 JB, and I'll tell you what it is. It's based on this guitar right here. So
Right on.
and this is what they call a shade top.
Shade
And
top. Yeah.
not all shade tops are created equal. Some of them have less burst in them. And this is a 1937
Wow.
0018 shade top.
Shade top.
But the cool thing about this guitar was found by my friend John Schultz, who lives in Birmingham, Alabama. He's a hell of a guitar collector. He's a hell of a guitar finder. All right, so it came with this.
There's a photo. Who is playing it?
Well, I'll tell you. Let's read it on the receipt. So clearly, this guitar was purchased 1938 of 29th of March 1938. It was purchased, and
Yes.
it was the lease and loan agreement was to Sally Ornette in Indiana, in South Bend, Indiana, residing at 832 South Jackson Street, and it was for a Martin guitar. It was $53.35. So clearly, this guy's mom paid for the guitar
I
on
see.
time. And so there was one little pencil mark here that says balance $48.50. She paid $12.50. Then the balance was $36, and it came with a Martin catalog of the same year, so you can go in there and look up your prices. Like an OM 18 would have cost you $40. A Style D orchestra model a D-28 in 1937, which is now a six-figure event,
That's the year, yeah, right?
would cost you $100 in 1937. The aforementioned Style 45 in 1937, triple O, would cost you $175. So, and then this one still has the original price tag from
Oh my
Mark,
goodness. You've got it all right
and
there. That is amazing.
it was $45 because
Right.
probably they charge more for the shade top.
Right.
So, and this guitar here in this photo is being held up by one of those old timey Western rope guitar straps.
Right. Yeah.
Is right here.
No. Oh my
So
goodness.
it's nice when you find them and they're that tight when it comes to provenance and they're all tagged up and you know where it's come from. And so we decided to do this guitar because it's kind of been my go-to studio guitar since I got it. I bring this and I'll bring this and I'll bring the replica 45, and that covers the basis. It's mahogany and
Right.
and your rosewood, and that should get it done.
One of each, yeah. I have the they sent it to me. I have this arrived yesterday.
They're great. The brand new ones are great.
Looks amazing.
And
right?
Yeah, those were the prototype got used all over my new record that we recorded in January, and actually stayed in tune better than this old thing. So we just ended up using that. I'm at the stage in my life, if it's in tune, if it stays in tune, that's what I'm going to use. I'm not going to fight it. If it's not staying, it's like fighting. Just get rid of it.
So you just recorded a record in January, and the prototype is all over it.
Yeah, and then I sent it back, and then
I see.
And I sent it back, and they just over my shoulder. There's the brand new one just in the corner over here. So
I see. And so, what record are you referring to? Like this is a studio.
It's a new studio record that'll come out next year. It's probably my last one. So yeah, we just did that, and yeah, so it records. The new one recorded great.
Interesting. You just said that will probably be your last
one. Yeah, probably be the last one. I've done 60. I'm good.
It's weird to say that, though, isn't it? Isn't it weird to say it?
No, it's not.
No,
yeah, I've done 60 albums. I've been involved, and that's not even the stuff I produced.
Right.
It's not. It's different. It's like we live in a time now where singles. You got to give away half the record before you bring it out, just to keep the algorithm on Spotify. The business is so different than when I started 40 years ago that I don't recognize it. And there's some positive attributes and there's some negative attributes to it. I think right now, it's, you could still go out there and hustle the gigs, and rely on word of mouth like I was doing at Moe's Alley. And then there's TikTok, and I don't get the TikTok. I have social media, and that's a good way to market things. It's a good way to, get the word out that you're out there. But if I was a young artist, like just starting today, if I was that nice young man that you met at Moe's Alley, light as can be, that if I was starting today, I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know how to read the landscape. Like before I could see cracks in the doors where you could sneak in and do kind of end arounds to like more the traditional way of marketing, music. Now it is highly competitive, and not that competition is a bad thing. It's highly competitive, but it's also, I am not sure who's doing what anymore. Who wrote what? Who's singing what? And who's playing what? I don't know. I listen to things and I go, who wrote that? What wrote that is the new question.
Right. Yeah, sure.
And there's a lot of people that are on social media, and people are in the business that will say this. They will plant their flag in the ground and say, "There's no way I'm using Suno on any of that until I need a verse really quickly." And then
Then there's
once
this tool that'll give you that just like that. Yeah.
and then the excuse will be, "Well, they're just tools." I mean, a great video to watch is an interview with Aretha Franklin when an interviewer is describing auto-tune to her. And the concept of a machine that was invented to tune vocals is so foreign to her. You can see her head, like her mind is blown, and she's like, "Why would you do that?" And just
I know.
like, and by the way, she came from the school where, why would you not record the vocals the same time as you recorded the rest of the band? Why would you do two takes after? That's the vocal, but she was such a great singer, and she came from that school of, you had to be able to deliver or else you didn't get a record deal.
For sure.
And it's just changing of the times. And sometimes art gets better and sometimes art gets worse. And I'm not going to stick around to find out.
Well, would you say then, to me, I feel like the acoustic guitar kind of has an opportunity to be the antithesis of that at the moment.
Yeah, you can't hide. I did a track with Brian Sutton. I never heard anything like that in my entire life. And then I played his guitar. He's got like a 36. It'll kill me if I get the year wrong, because there's a huge difference. He was the one that told me, like, well, the 36s are a little tighter. The 37s are really. I'm like,
yeah.
Whoa.
I've got an interview with him where he says all that too, but I'm not going to try to quote it exactly.
I don't want to paraphrase him and do it wrong. But so he let me play this thing, and I'm like, Brian, you mean to tell me you're playing all of that with strings that feel like are the same gauge as the power lines that are running to the building? He goes, "Oh, it's not that hard." I was like, different world, man. I use 11s and people think my strings are heavy. And I'm like, nah, play a bluegrass. Play Brian's Martin for 5 minutes. Your hand will be like begging for mercy. But he just flawless.
Well, an 11s is light, really. Still, I think
well, 11s is light for an acoustic. I play 12s on the acoustic because I'm not bending, and I'm not bending, nor am I attempting to bend. I play 11s on the electrics, and 12s on the acoustics. I find the 12s stay in tune a little bit better.
Right.
But I think the normal is normal is 13s. I think those are I think they call those regulars. I'm like, regular, jeez.
Right. And when you play acoustic, it looks, I don't know how much you change up your approach. For example, Eric Johnson, absolutely different cat playing the electric guitar versus the acoustic guitar. He'll go full finger style, and a lot of the stuff you associate with him is kind of over here on the electric. How about yourself? When you go to play the acoustic?
I mean, for me, it's, I don't have a guitar pick. I should have one, but so I mean, the thing is, I mean, I was just as much a fan of Di Meola, all the really super fast stuff, as I was, Clapton's, the way he plays, he kind of plays finger style. And I mean, like the probably be tuned up for these things. I mean, like that kind of stuff. I mean, that was so all those are my kind of influences. Mm-hmm. But I tend to, when I'm at home, I tend not to. I have a bowl of picks behind me, but I don't want to like get up and get one. I probably should.
All right, but you do normally, like we watch you play live acoustic, you are normally playing with a pick, even though you can
Always a
clearly
pick.
fingerstyle.
Always a pick. I mean, I have this song that I would do religiously called "Woke Up Dreaming." This is probably part of
That's
my gig for forever, and I'll probably bring it back sometime next year and beat the hell out of one of these things. And you know, it's the musical equivalent of Evel Knievel jumping the fountains at Caesar's Palace. Okay, it really shouldn't be attempted or done. It's not a good idea. Okay, nobody wins. Okay, people get
it's a
hurt.
workout. I've seen you do it.
It's like it's that kind of stuff. And I wrote this song on a bet, with George Thorogood when I used to open for him 25 years ago, and I wrote it with Will Jennings,
Mm-hmm.
and George had this kind of riff that went in, and he goes, "Bonamassa, I bet you can't play that fast." And I came in the next day, and I was like, and then but that's all that D Miola Friday Night in San Francisco. All that,
Yeah,
I haven't played in a long time, so I'm off. It's just my break, so I don't play very much, but it's
you
not
still
meth.
sound pretty good, Joe. Yeah. Of course, he's
So
doing it on nylon
I
string. You're
do
doing
picks.
on steel. What's that?
I do picks
Yeah,
mostly.
yeah. Okay, so you got your pick there, and that particular tune has basically kind of become like your showcase. Would you say maybe like the signature Joe acoustic song? Huh? You played in all the live
Yeah, I mean,
shows. I
it's
mean that one, the Carnegie Hall one with the cello. I think it is
Tina Guo.
incredible.
Yeah, that was the one that. But the thing is, Kevin or somebody, our producer Kevin, had this idea of doing the Flight of the Valkyrie, which I understood her problem. Her problem was she couldn't slow it. It has to syncopate at a certain tempo, which was faster than Woke Up Dreaming. So
Ah, so she
so
pushed you in that regard then.
I normally play it here. I think Carnegie Hall was another 5 or 10 clicks faster. So again, it's like Evel Knievel jumping the fountains of Caesar's Palace. You can get hurt. And but the fact that Tina could live at those tempos with such ease that it was insane to try to just keep up. And you could see me
I could. It's really
struggle.
fun to watch that performance because you're just, man, you're on a high wire for sure.
I had to. I was the time, and I was like, and then trading back and forth. It was probably the most challenging thing musically I've ever done. Is
Yeah.
that version at Carnegie Hall, and we did a whole tour of that. And
Yes.
my D8, my 50, I have a 1950 really great D18,
Yeah. It looked like a D18, a mahogany guitar. Yeah.
and it was beat up before I got it, but after that tour and playing that song in particular on that, there was a whole bunch of new 2 marks up here. I mean, it was just because you couldn't help. You just got to hang on, So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that
that's a
was
killer, man. I'm glad you talked about that. I was going to ask you about the origin story and the whole thing, but that's a good one.
yeah. So it was just a dare. I think George's River, something like that. It kind of have like a fast boogie chilling thing. And I just kind of, and then Will Jennings.
He wrote the lyrics, and for those who don't know, Will is a famous guy, and he wrote like "Tears in Heaven" and
Tears in
things like
Heaven,
that.
Up Where
Correct?
We Belong, My Heart Will Go On, the
Yeah.
Titanic
My heart will
soundtrack.
go on. Sure. Yeah.
But he was just a wonderful guy and such a legend. He was such a legend.
Your new record, you're going live again. A tribute to Rory
Yeah,
Gallagher.
yeah.
You want to talk about that for a second? And
Can't believe that was a year ago. Can't believe we did that a year ago. And it was something that I was asked to do by the Gallaghers themselves.
oh, no kidding.
And and Peter Aiken, who was Rory's promoter, and Peter's father was Rory's promoter as well. And they said they had this idea, and I was like, "Well, why are you calling me? I'm not the guy. That's call Davey, call Davey, you know, Davey Knowles is who I'm referring to because he's the guy. He should be the guy." And but they had this specific idea that they wanted me to do it, and I was like, you know what, challenge accepted, but
No?
with a caveat, going, I am not Rory Gallagher. I love him. I loved his music. I'm not that. I don't sing like him. I don't play guitar very. I play nick some slide stuff, and Rory was a comet. He was this one entity. And I said, it'll just sound like Joe B doing Rory. And that's what it is. And it was 3 nights in Cork. It was 20,000 people, sold out.
And what an interesting invitation to get.
Yeah, I was I was in a mood for a challenge, and kind of knew that I was winding down and wanted to kind of, you know, uh, find projects that give me one last kick in the butt, and trying to, while I still had the energy and while I still had I thought the ability to do it the right way, and it's it was the right thing at the right time. And I was very
Right.
happy with it. So
The one thing you're going to be touring, and a lot of the reason that folks get their vintage Martins cloned relic is because they want to be able to take them out on the road. When you're going out on the road, let's say the next time, what Martins are going to be in the road cases?
well, it depends. I mean, like the thing about the difference between electric and acoustic is you have to amplify them.
Yeah.
And the challenge is amplifying, and that's why the new 0018 that we've got coming out. I used the Martin Electronics at this gig called the Soho Sessions with Slash earlier this year, and I was
Mm-hmm.
I was in New York, and it was the only it's here, I can just plug it in, and I like the electronics so much. I said, hey, put them in the build one into my USA model, and that's so I'm probably going to just use that. I'm not afraid to bring old stuff on the road. I mean, happy to bring a pair of 59 Les Pauls that's and Strats and Tellys and ES and stuff like that. But acoustic's different. It's because you have to amplify it, and in order to get it, you have to like to get it as loud as I want it, and you have to plug the sound hole, and I use this wireless pack with with the with an SSL preamp in it. When you're doing the Woke Up Dreaming and arena, it's like you got to get it loud.
So you're going to bring your American version, and you're putting a pickup in it, and
They already
then
did it for me. Yeah, it's here. I asked them to do it, so I got the American the same pickup that's in the import model.
So
Put in
the exact same one with a little tuner in there and everything.
Yeah.
The E1, I think they call it.
Clearly,
Right?
I need it. The 37 didn't come stock with a tuner built in, so I need it. I'm out of tune.
Right, and then it's the Martin E1, and so that one on the wall, that's the import version that comes with it, and that is one of the great things about those. All of those Rose Series ones have that in there, and it sounds fantastic. The tuner works.
It's a great set of electronics. I mean, I was like, yeah, this is great. I mean, again, it was just a situation where I was in having to do some acoustic stuff with Slash at the Soho Session gig in New York. It was a benefit for our charity, and I plugged it into a little Fishman. They have these little Fishman amps, acoustic amps, and I'm like, sounds great.
Yeah, just right into like a loud box, probably.
I told Rory, not Gallagher, but Martin's Rory. I said,
right,
let's just dump one of these things in there.
Well, that's interesting for people that are considering these, is they're going to be coming right out. You are using the exact one that's in the
exact one
Road Series in your custom signature model, and I've plugged those things in, and I find that to be the same result. I can't believe sometimes how good that sounds, just plugged straight in. And that's interesting to hear you do it. I also noticed like that you went with your import version has solid woods for the
Yeah.
top and back and side, which is not always the case. In fact, I think it's the exception. So is that something that you brought to the table?
Martin wanted to do it,
Mm,
and again, it was like, to me, it's like I wanted to keep the price point down so everybody has access to it. But I mean, I literally used the import model at that gig with Slash, and
right,
that was it. And I just brought it. It was in a gig bag, and it had the original strings on it, and I plugged it in, and it sounded great. And I said, there it is. You don't have the notion that it's cheaper, that it's worse, is not the case all the time, you know?
right,
And the notion that it's expensive and better, it's not the case all the time.
right,
Sometimes there are these happy accidents that just happen at a price point where you're going, I can't believe that you get that kind of guitar for that kind of money. And that's what I was hoping to achieve with these. And Martin did a great job. It's like let's get a great guitar at a price point that's achievable. I mean, we did the $20,000 triple O 45. Now let's get something that's affordable that you can just take out and beat the hell out of, and not worry about, the airlines running it over with a luggage cart,
right. And being in that
Yeah.
00 size is very, very cozy as well.
I like it. To me, it's manageable. Double O, triple O's those are my favorites.
So now you've got these, you're going to go back out on the road and, you get to meet so many people. You get to play with Slash and
Yeah.
play all these amazing Martins. And I don't know how many there are in your collection, but probably a significant amount at this point.
40.
Of all of this stuff, do you have a favorite Martin memory?
I think the first time I played a really good old one, and it was at Gruen Guitars years and years and years ago, when I was a kid. It was just like, just coming through Nashville playing a gig, and they were nice enough to bring me upstairs. This was when it was on Lower Broadway. Now
Right.
I believe Gruen Guitars is Blake Shelton's bar. It was Lower Broadway and Third. That was the second or third iteration of Gruen Guitars. It was 2 stories,
Mhm.
and it's just they let me go upstairs even though they knew I had $0 to spend. And so, and the first time I played like a real pre-war 28, that was great. Like life changing.
Right. Well, it's an honor to be able to get, I'm sure, for you and for that kid to get all the way to this point and have your hands on the ones that you do.
It's a
And
huge
to,
honor. I mean, to look inside the label of like a Martin guitar and see Joe Bonamassa in there, I still, it's a pinch me moment.
you've worked really hard for it. These sound amazing right out of the case. And I just appreciate the fact that you have so much concern for the guitar community in general. I can see you out there always seemingly helping the youngers
Gotta help
along
people. Gotta help.
and making these models that are affordable enough for folks to get their hands on. You're still doing it, and that you've got all these Martin
Yeah.
stories and took the time to share your personal life Martin story with us. It means a lot. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Joe.
and I wonder if this guy ever thought his guitar would be a signature model.
Right. That's so
knows?
cool.
Thank you very much for having me, and good to see you again after all these years.
It's great to see you again. We'll see you out on the road, and the best of luck with the new record, with the guitars, with everything. Well, that was super interesting. I learned a whole lot, and I hope y'all did as well. Martin Stories. This is the official podcast of Martin Guitar. So happy to have Joe Bonamassa relay his Martin story, and what a story it is, You can find Joe online. He's got a lot more. That website of his is packed with information, so please find him there. And we want to encourage everybody to like and to subscribe. Tell your friends. It helps everybody else find us. We're going to be doing this every 2 weeks. So please keep with us. And this podcast, is produced by Elizabeth Evans Media. We thank her. We thank you. I'm Jimmy Leslie, signing off for Martin Stories. We'll see you at the next episode.